Welcome back, mathematicians. We're going to do a CGI problem for today. So let's go ahead and read it together. Yours is on the screen. It says, Mrs. Clark and Mila were searching for rocks. Mrs. Clark collected blank and Mila collected blank. If only blank were dark, how many were not dark? So that tells me we have a two-step problem here. So let's go ahead. We've already read it, but now we need to visualize it. I have a video that's connected that you can watch. Mila and I collecting rocks. But if you want to shut your eyes and visualize it, that's fine too. So take a second and visualize what is happening in this story. And let me retell it or repeat it again. Do it with me. Mrs. Clark and Mila were searching for rocks. Mrs. Clark collected blank rocks. Mila collected blank rocks. But if only blank of them were dark rocks, how many were not dark? So that is our question for today. So what we have is a number set of, 54, 68, and 37. So if we were to read this, that would mean that I collected 54 rocks, Mila collected 68 rocks, and 37 of them were dark. So we need to figure out what is our first step here. So the action is what? What is the action of this story? We're collecting rocks. So that means that we are gathering them. So the action, the math action, means that we need to add. Exactly. So we are going to add which numbers here? If the first two numbers are Mrs. Clark, and the second one is Mila, and the third one is the dark rocks, which two numbers are we going to add first? Exactly. We're going to add the 54 and the 68. So you can add those however you feel comfortable. 54 plus 68. So I like to always find those friendly numbers. And you know what? This is so close to 70. So I'm going to take my 54 and decompose it into 52 and 2. And I'm going to take 68 plus 2, which will get me to 70. Then I'm going to add that 52 back in, plus 52. And that will get me to, let's see, that's going to go over 100. That's kind of tough. So you know what? I might decompose this again. And I know that 70 and 30 gets me to 100. And then that would leave me with 22. So I'm going to break it down again just so I can decompose it for a friendly number. I'm going to do 70 plus 30, which is going to get me to my 100. Then I'm going to add my 22. Okay, that was a little bit easier, wasn't it? So there's 122 rocks total. Now, when it comes to three-step problems, there's always a hidden question. And the hidden question in this one is, well, the second question, it wants to know how many are not dark rocks. But we need to know the total amount of rocks before we can do that. And that's what this number is here. So we do have a hidden question that is not actually asked in the word problem. The hidden question is, how many rocks total? We have to solve this first before we can solve the actual question of the word problem. So we have already figured out, because we added these two numbers together. We added those two numbers together, which gives us the total amount collected by me and Mila. So we know that there are 122 rocks total. So now we need to go back to the word problem and we need to figure out what the question is actually asking. We answered the hidden question. There's 122 rocks. The question of the problem says, if only blank were dark, how many were not dark? So that's where this number comes into play. So if only 37 of them were dark, how many of them were not dark? So what are we doing here? What action could be done here? Is there an action? We're comparing dark rocks to light rocks, aren't we? So there's not really an action that we can do or that we can see. but we could separate to compare and see what the difference is. So if I have a total of 122 rocks and I know there's 37 that are dark, I need to know how many are not dark. So our next step is to figure out the difference between 37 and 122. We're comparing those two numbers. So I could do two things. I could do 122 minus 37 and get my answer, or I could do 137 plus blank and get me to 122. Whatever strategy works best for you, that's the strategy you can use if you want to add or if you want to subtract. I'm going to choose to subtract because I think it's easier. So I'm going to take 122 and I am going to look at my 37. I have two tens here. So I'm going to go ahead and take two tens out of 37 and decompose that. So I'm going to subtract 20. So I decompose this into 20. And what's the other number I decompose it into? 17. Okay, so we have 22 minus 20 equals 102. Now, actually, I think I want to decompose this into 15 and 2. So I can take this 2 away. So now I have 102 minus 2, which will get me to a friendly number of 100. So I've done my 20 and I've done my 2. So now I just have to subtract that 15. So if I know that, got to get my arrow in there. If I know that 100 minus 10 is 90, I take away one more 5. 15. That equals 85. And the label here would be, you could say not dark rocks, like the question asked, or you could use your knowledge of saying light rocks. So there's my final answer. So that was the example problem. So now you get to choose which words number set that you want to do for the problem that you're going to submit for today. Good luck, mathematicians.